Welcome to Loops, where we talk about the patterns shaping work, identity, and the future of careers. We're told to find ourselves as if identity is something hidden waiting to be uncovered. But what if that idea is exactly what's keeping people stuck? What if identity isn't discovered but constructed? Shaped by repetition, reinforced by feedback, strengthened by environment. In a world where careers are fluid and certainty is in flux, identity can't be passive, it has to be practiced. Today's conversation is about how identity actually forms, why manifestation alone often fails, and how to consciously become someone new without forcing it or faking it. Welcome back to Loop Season 1. I'm your host, Josh Thompson-Prasad, co-founder of WorkSelf. Today, we're joined by Natalia Fomachenko, a career and leadership coach at London Business School and one of our contributors to the Human Feedback Loop, our upcoming book. Natalia works in the space of identity formation and supports the business program at LBS. Welcome to the show, Natalia.
Thank you, Josh. It's nice to be here.
Amazing. Last episode, we talked about why stable careers are fading. Today, we're diving deeper into identity itself, how it forms, why it gets stuck, and how people actually change without pretending to be someone they're not. So, Natalia, when I suggest that identity is built, what does that mean to you?
Well, this is the idea that sometimes people believe that they need to discover themselves, that their identity stays hidden until they find it. And it's actually not true. What's true is identity is built by immersing yourself in a new environment, by having the feedback from that environment between yourself and environment, and shaping your beliefs about yourselves in the process. So this is why I think that identity is something that you build rather than discover.
And have you seen this manifested within the career work that you do with the students at LBS?
Oh yeah, for sure. When someone goes to do the MBA program at London Business School or not, and I was actually one of the students a few years ago, you come with your background, but then you are immersed in a community of a completely diverse community, people from almost 70 nationalities, completely different backgrounds. And so you start expanding yourself, you start expanding your outlook to the world. You see there are so many other things that other people do that were not necessarily things that you thought about before. And so by talking with people, by trying new things, you reinforce new data points about yourself. And eventually, after 2 years of an MBA, you become a new person. And I also see it and saw it multiple times with myself. For instance, I'm originally Russian, and so when I first moved abroad more than 10 years ago, I was someone who only lived in one country, and I had certain perspectives and views and understanding of how life works. And now suddenly I find myself in Dubai, that is a major travel hub, and I start traveling like crazy. And I become a new person because I have been exposed to so many different environments, and I see how different people live and something culturally or environmentally different that I was not used to back in Russia. And I never knew that I'm the person who travels a lot, yet the new environment in which I was immersed have made me that person.
Mm-hmm. And, as it comes to career, because a lot of your work has to do with sort of career development, how do you see this identity impacting the paths that someone chooses in their career?
Yeah, so each career path is a door into a new identity, right? If you decide to become, let's say, a management consultant, and it's a career pivot, you haven't done it before, or maybe it's a new career, maybe you just graduated. And so you are exposed into this new environment. You learn how to work with clients, how to work on completely different topics within different industries. You learn how to make slides at the end of the day. And then
A lot of presentations.
a lot of presentations. And so you learn all of that, and suddenly you think of yourself as a management consultant. And then let's say you go to an MBA with an idea to change careers, and maybe you want to start your business. And then suddenly your old identity almost collapses because you're no longer a management consultant. You're someone new, but you haven't yet figured out how this person is and what's the difference. We just know that you need to do something different to actually have a different career. And so gradually, and we can talk about it more, about how you actually build your identity, how you with micro steps introduce this change into your life, then suddenly you look back and see yourself as an entrepreneur, and you have evolved. And so every career transition brings up, or not brings up, but rather develops your identity further. It evolves as you grow in your career.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, talking about sort of developing your career and this alongside that, developing your identity, what is the challenge that you see in that in-between phase when you've kind of left behind some part of yourself, whether you've moved on from a job or like a role, you've got promoted or moved laterally? What is the challenge that you see in that sort of liminal space?
Yeah, and this is the limbo space. And it's quite scary, to be honest. It can be quite scary and vulnerable because, as I said, you have already kind of let go of your previous identity, or you understand that it no longer works. And so you feel more vulnerable because you have to reinvent yourself, yet you haven't yet figured out how to be that new person. It hasn't yet, your new identity that you've imagined in your mind has not yet caught up with you on your nervous system level. And so your body does not know that it's safe. And so your body goes into this alarm mode, so like, it's a risk. What's going on? We are moving somewhere that is unfamiliar, and we are not sure if it's safe. And so that's why it feels sometimes so overwhelming. And so the process here, I guess, is to accept that for a normal part of the process. Give yourself some time to grieve the loss of the previous safety zone, but then also take micro steps to relearn that safety in a new identity. And again, it's time and micro steps that allow you to get used to the new you and eventually teach your body that it's safe to be a new you.
It's so interesting. I often compare this to, when you kind of have to adopt a new commute.
Exactly.
And the first time that you do that new commute to like a job or wherever it might be, right? It feels so long, feels so torturous, because at every point you're like, oh, where am I going? What am I doing here? You just don't have an idea of how long the commute is going to take. It says 40 minutes, but is it going to be 40 minutes? You're walking down the street. And then once you do that commute, 20, 30 times, it just blends into the background.
Yeah.
It becomes integrated.
I'm listening to you and I'm remembering how when I started my MBA, I was in consulting before, and so I used Lenovo Windows laptop, and so I bought myself a Mac because I wanted to be cool. Gosh, I hated my life for 2 weeks. Because it was so different. And now I cannot do Windows. Like I really but I love Mac. Anyway, that reminded me of that. But the point is that repetition is essential, right? Because it may seem as nothing on the surface to do a micro action, because, you did a journaling, let's say today, and nothing has really changed in your life. But if you do this micro action every day or at least every week, then suddenly you notice a change. But it's compounding. It takes time. Sometimes people just want to have very quick results and they get very annoyed that they don't get them overnight, but that's just not how life works.
Yeah, I mean, I think to kind of dive deeper on that, what are the sort of elements? Like, why does transition or manifestation into new identity often fail? What are those pitfalls?
Yeah, this is a good question. It's very popular idea about manifestation, which always I imagine as, okay, I sit on the sofa and I manifest that I'm on Maldives. Well, I'm still here. And why doesn't it work? Because visualization is great, because it helps you gain clarity on what it is that you want. But what you are missing is the action. You cannot really achieve results while sitting on a sofa. You have to do something. And it's not just an isolated action. It's the action within your environment that allows you to get the feedback from your action. So you have yourself with your thoughts and emotions and beliefs. Then you have the environment, the other people, the circle of your friends, family, and colleagues. And then you have this connection, this bridge between the two, as in a feedback loop, because you do an action and you get a reaction. And so you have to look at all three in order to make manifestation work. You have to obviously look at your thoughts and your emotional state, but you also have some choice in the environment that you put yourself into. And then you also have to look for feedback, and you also have some control over the people who surround you. And so by targeting all three of those elements, you get the eventual result of a manifestation, but it's not just the visualization that you have to do.
Yeah, I really like that. It's a very holistic way of kind of looking at that challenge of evolution. And speaking about reflection and, feedback loops, how do you implement that practically in your life?
Yes. So let me expand a little bit on this idea that I just mentioned, where there is you, there is environment, and then there is a feedback between that. So when you think about something, it creates an emotional effect on the feeling level, right? And then this emotion is what motivates you to action. Now, this action is perceived by your environment, by the people who surround you. They give you the feedback, and that enforces your belief about yourself, that then integrates into your thinking, and then the cycle repeats, right? And so in order to manage that loop, you have to you can influence those processes at each of the stages. So for example, you can obviously influence what you think, what sort of emotional state you are creating for yourself. You can choose the people, and by the way, how can you influence what you think and an emotional state? Journaling is a really good exercise to do that. It could be daily reflection on what's going on, gratitude practice. It's a very simple thing that we usually underestimate the impact of, or it can be a weekly reflection of how the things went throughout the week. So those or feelings, how can you work on your emotional state? Again, become aware of what it is that you require right now to feel safe. Maybe it's a bath, maybe it's just sitting in silence. So those things, those little small steps help you manage your thinking and feeling. Now, when it comes to action, then the micro actions are the tools that help you reinforce your thoughts and emotions. And then you can also influence the people or the environment, because you can really choose where you are. You can choose the people who you surround yourself with. It could be mentors, it could be friends, it could be people who inspire you. You know how they say you're an average of 5 people you spend the most time with, but it's also people who you meet online. Maybe there are some writers or influencers that really inspire you. So you can have choice over what you do, who you expose yourself to. And so by working on your mental state and on your environment, then you create the loop that essentially advances you in the direction that you want to advance.
And how does intentionality play a role in this overall sort of process of identity formation?
Intentionality is a choice, right? So it's about you choosing your loop. So if you made that choice, then you start doing the micro actions that can that are aligned with the new choice of identity, and then you choose to notice the feedback, you choose to ask for that feedback, and you choose to incorporate that back into your life through journaling, etc. And so this is an active choice, and the action needs to be small, because otherwise it's overwhelming and it's very difficult to sustain. But yeah, that's where intentionality plays into that.
And, you know, in your experience as a coach, where do you see most people kind of falling off the ladder in this, you know, in this identity evolution period?
Yeah, it's lack of action, lack of reinforcement.
Yeah.
It's basically not being able to proceed with the micro action on a regular basis. And that's the habit formation, right? It's difficult to rewire yourself, and that's why it never works. From Monday, I will go to the gym every day. It needs to be really small. I remember myself when I wanted to rewire myself to start waking up earlier. I always consider myself an identity of a night owl, and so a few days I was trying to go to bed at 9, and it never worked because I used to go to bed at 1, and then I was very frustrated with myself. And after having quite a few loops of this frustration, I finally realized that I need to do incremental changes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and it took me longer, but it was a very sustainable result. And up until now I don't consider myself a night owl anymore.
That's so interesting. I mean, it's such a small thing when you think about it. It's like, it feels almost silly, right?
Yeah.
But then you go through the process, and we talk about this in coaching a lot, of like trusting the process, what that actually looks like. And you are going to feel a little bit silly. You are going to feel a little bit uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But embrace that discomfort and lean into it. And I think it sounds like you can make a change. Yeah,
there's so much power in the process, yet people keep overlooking it by being focused on results. But if you overlook the process, results are never gonna come. And then if you don't, and then results suddenly come, then they say, oh, you're lucky, or, you know, and people wonder how you've done it, but it's all about micro steps.
Yeah, there is no secret sauce. It's just one thing after the other.
Exactly, and time.
I love that. All right, well, thank you so much, Natalia, for today. It's been a lovely conversation. It sounds like, you know, some of the things that we discussed today, if identity is built, then life becomes your workshop. And in the next episode, we're actually going to be talking about skills and why skills alone aren't enough. Till then, stay well and keep closing your loops.
Thank you.